and start streaming. Okay. All right, what's going on, everyone? Welcome. For anyone tuning in the YouTube video, or if you're watching live, I am here with.
Ikan, that is I. Hello, hello.
Hello. So,
Uh, this is a new, hopefully, series we're trying to get involved. We're kind of trying to do maybe a Midwestern version of some Smash podcasts that have been going around. We don't really know how long this is going to be or how long we're going for, but it's going to be pretty fun. We're going to try something new.
yeah, kind of talking free flow right now, and then whenever people come in the chat, I'm actually going to ask them to make sure they can hear both of us so we don't have any mishaps like that. But generally, what we're going to be talking about today is going to be going into like who we are, kind of like the series in general, and just, overall, you get to meet us, hear our thoughts on things, and like nothing too crazy, nothing too out of the ordinary, but it gives us a way to relay what we're thinking because we found that we have similar thought processes, whether it's out of the game or maybe on some stuff with the game in general. But I'm excited to talk about everything today.
And
And
especially with somebody I don't get to see too often, but this is a little bit of a Midwestern unity with St. Louis and Chicago. So we'll
yeah,
maybe get some new environments, new chatters. Honestly,
yeah,
we'll be
new
very excited.
connections, just
Yeah,
overall
just
crossover thing. Maybe, something happens that wouldn't happen otherwise. But
yeah, no, very, very exciting. I guess you can start off with introducing yourself, and then I'll lay it off over.
yeah, okay. I'm Apollo Kage. Currently trying to be the best snake in the world, one of the best snakes out there, I'd say. Um, Recently, got third at SOS 7, which is a C tier, and then got I want to say fourth, yeah, fourth at Lua, which I believe was a C tier as well. It was like 300 something
B.
people.
I think it was a B actually. Yeah, so
B
pretty
tier,
good.
oh, top four
Yeah,
there, so looking good.
yeah.
And then I have with me Ikan.
That is I. So hello, hello. For those of you who don't know, I am Chicago's Midwestern Twitterless Ryu player. Recently ranked number one in Chicago for the past season.
Oh,
Uh,
let's go.
yeah, let's go, right? The season's already shaky though, but we'll see how that goes. I guess most of you might know me from that clip I got at Glitch Infinite. I was flown out over there.
Yeah, yeah.
It was a very, very fun tournament. Got 17th over there, and I'm trying to go to Genesis and Low Tide, which I'm confirmed to
Oh,
go to.
that's awesome.
So very fun
Um,
stuff coming up. Very, very excited to hopefully, like you, try and be the best for you in the world. So yeah.
I mean, you're well on your way. Out here getting PGR wins left and right.
Ah,
Um, Especially good run and glitch, good stuff on that. I saw the clip you're talking about. I believe it was against who was the youngling? It was a youngling,
uh,
right?
Click, yes.
Click. Okay,
Yeah,
I believe that person's from MDVA. I see them at
yes, yeah,
locals with Pape and Wadi, I believe.
yeah.
Okay,
Very solid player.
yeah, that's pretty awesome. And then speaking of big tournaments coming up, I'm gonna be going to Pound, gonna be going to Genesis, and I'm going to go to CO, Momocon, Double Down, and trying to
Ashcon.
yeah, SmashCon too.
Yeah.
SmashCon's one of my favorites. That's where I got the ESAM win and that good stuff. But aside from
Uh,
that, like
sorry.
in general, I think we can break the ice here or get like super started with. Let's talk about mentality, right? So this is definitely one that getting into Smash. I came from a MOBA called Smite, and I was a Smite player, and basically used to have the mentality. Thank you so much for the sub, Raichu. Welcome. That's my homie. Shout out, Raichu. But what ended up happening was I came from Smite where I actually had the opposite mentality of kind of like where I'm at now, and that was basically like I wasn't afraid to be toxic and all that good stuff. Like I wasn't afraid to basically I was shit talking way more, and it basically what it led to was it put more pressure on me, and like kudos to you if that's how you want to go about it, but for me personally, I found that I was like better composed while calm, and it wasn't like putting the pressure on myself, and in general like just taking it one game at a time, not playing every time like it's my last time playing, like like it's obviously I want to win, I want to be the best, that's like why I'm a competitor here, but if it even if it doesn't happen instantly, that's not exactly a bad thing. Like that's one thing is where it's like you got to trust the process, right? Like I've been competing in Smash myself for like 3 years now, and it's like it still took me like 5 to 6 months in general, with having my brother's the best player in the scene to guide me, still took me that long to win a tournament or get like super high placing. And after that, you just like hammer it out, right? You focus on one thing at a time to not overcomplicate your brain, in my opinion. Like, for example, I know I'm kind of going in here, but
Yeah, go ahead. Go for
yeah,
it.
yeah.
No.
But anyways, I would be like, okay, I want to go to this local. I want to focus on down tilting better today. I want to focus on ledge trapping better. I want to focus on calling out jumps today. And I would just go by one by one by one by one, and it just helped me like build up solidly areas that I want to build on. I feel like as long as like when you're playing right, you have that purpose in mind. That's like a great start.
Mhm.
Um,
I think it's still really funny to hear you were just the absolute biggest trash talker because you're one of the nicest guys I've ever met in the
okay,
Smash community, and I'm just
it's
like, no way this guy came from
okay.
that environment.
It's always inside the game, right? But I'm like even just playing it when you're playing against them, I felt like it put more stakes on me to like not lose, right? Because you got to back up the talk, which helps people play better. But what I found for me recently is like whenever I'm taking a deep breath and I'm calm, that's whenever I can get inside people's heads the most. That's whenever I can make those reads because there's nothing like there is no mental. I don't feel anything in the moment, right? Like I'm just playing, just like every other day, right? You sit down, you play for hours and hours and hours. Eventually, it's just gonna feel like that. That's one thing where it's like people also need to be patient with like the whole mentality thing because it's a lot of stuff that's going to be told to you is going to sound and honestly be easier said than done because like it's one thing to be like, oh yeah, just go to a tournament, don't have any nerves, easy. But like to actually do that, I've been competing in games for like 5 to 6 years total, and I'm only 20. So I've been doing it for a very like long time. Like a fourth of my life is a decent chunk, and I know people in this community have been playing like even longer than that, right? Like, um, just Leo in general. Like I think he won his first tournament with like grenadeless snake when he was 7 or 8, and now he's like
That's
20,
insane.
21, like playing for 13, 14 years. Like
Mhm.
man has earned it. In general though, like just being patient, I feel, is one thing that people have big struggles with, and it's like I know you want it now, but like sometimes you're not going to be able to achieve it as fast as you want to, and you got to be okay with that because you got to like trust in yourself to grind through that. Like eventually you'll find it, but it's going to take repetition sometimes, especially when a game is like as tricky to navigate as Smash. Because like what's what's so beautiful about it is what makes it so hard because there is no one right answer scenarios, which is like, oh, that's so cool, but you're like, this is so hard to navigate adequately because there's no right answer, so you have to figure it out yourself. And sometimes the one right answer for one player is not going to work for another player, so not only do you have to figure out the certain like adaptations, but you have to be like that on the fly, like instant.
And not to mention there's so many characters, so many stages in this
Yeah.
game. There's absolutely no way you're gonna be able to honestly find a right answer for every situation, which actually leads me into something that's very beautiful, is that there's always gonna be another tournament. I feel like there's a lot of Smash players that kind
Mm-hmm.
of try to keep themselves in this one tournament ride or die situation, or it's all over and I'm never gonna play the game again. The fact that there's always another tournament means that improvement is not this, it is all the way a sprint. And not sorry, it's all the way a marathon. Sorry,
Yep.
not a sprint, a marathon.
I actually think
So
um,
yeah.
building off of that, I think that's something that people don't talk about is sometimes like if you're playing so much and processing so much information, like sometimes you will pick up things that inevitably make you worse. That's why I think like the improvement thing is kind of like it's like up and down, right?
Oh,
Like
definitely. Yeah.
you'll do like up and then down and then higher than you were before, and then up and then down and higher than you were before. Like just peaks like that. Like I've gone to tournament streaks, and then I've had weeks recent times where I've getting like seventh or like fourth at a local, and I got a state.
Mhm.
I get like top three a regional. I'm like what like just stuff like that, but it's all a part of the process, right? Because like in general, what if I got first at local, maybe complacent, who knows if I would have got third at that out of state tournament, right? I wouldn't have been as hungry. So it's like as much as it can hurt you, it can also benefit you. And I feel like people will focus too much on the negatives, and it's like if you're going to recognize the positives so highly, then you have to be willing to accept the negatives that come with it, even if they don't feel like the best, even if they're not as good of a time.
Exactly. Chicago's been actually going through a lot of this transition and playing out of state more because this has been the year where we've been trying to really make ourselves known. And a lot of us, myself included, have been really going through that struggle of, oh, I did so good at this out of state major. I got this beautiful run. I got a really great losers run, great wins. And I'm coming back to my local that I used to be
Mm-hmm.
confidently number one in. And I'm getting like seventh. I'm getting like ninth. I'm getting like 13th at a stack ignition. And I'm just like, this is not something that I'm used to.
Hmm.
But one step back leads you to feel more passionate and get those further steps forward, leading to that up down trajectory in the super long game that's improvement.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. I agree totally there. Um, Now, leading from that is how you mentioned there's so many stages, so many characters, going into
Yeah.
like game plans, and on top of that, game plans I feel lead directly into playing without being nervous. So a lot of the time, like this game's hard. There's a lot of characters, so you're gonna have to play for a lot of time, right? And
Mhm.
like it's gonna take you a couple hours. You know, it depends on who you are. You might need 10, you might need 100 to master a matchup. Like it just depends. And when there's like 80 matchups, right, it can be hard to have everyone on deck. So having like these game plans that you can fall back onto, like for example, I read the ADHD Twit longer a while ago, and he kind of described it as like he has modes. Like he would play, he was playing Brawl Diddy Kong, had access to two bananas, and he would have this mode where it's like no bananas, two bananas, and one banana. So the one banana is kind of like developing a certain style for specific players, right? He was playing against Brawl Luigi, funnily enough. The Have you heard of Boss before?
I have. Yeah, he was
Okay,
a Smash
so
4
yeah,
early Luigi too. Yeah.
so Boss the Luigi, I believe, played Brawl. Like, correct
Okay.
me if I'm wrong. Someone in the comments on YouTube later, just whenever. But I
Mhm.
believe he played Luigi in that game, and ADAC was talking about how he could only beat him if he used one banana at a time. So like Diddy in later iterations could only use one banana, but Brawl Diddy had two. So he actually felt like it was too dangerous to have two bananas on the field against this certain player. So then he would only use one banana. And that might seem like a subtle difference or like a small change, but what it basically deciphers is that sometimes against players you will have certain tricks that will work on them, but it's up to you to like come up with that on the fly, right? Snake has many grenade tosses. You know, you have different fireball speeds, so it kind of like
I
it
do.
changes how you want to approach the matchup, and it's like being able to have a game plan that reminds you of your tools and like how they should be used, and like, should I be approaching, should I be jumping towards them, should I be jumping in place, should I be jumping away, just like those little elements of game plan, having that and going from there instead of nothing based on how the player you're playing is play like basically you're playing the player with the game plan to help you out versus no game plan. I feel like it helps the nerves a little bit for me at least, and like eases me into a matchup. And actually, like recent times, I realized that I need to take more time between games and between sets in general just to like let my brain cool off and like mentally reset, and give myself time to think and process things rather than rushing back in, because like that's at the end of the day that's what it's all about, right? You can like lay out the fundamental work, but it's going to be about your reads and your call outs. So having like the fundamental parts come to you in a way that's quicker or easier or coming from experience, right? Like sometimes we have subconscious answers to situations that we can't explain, but our body reacts like that. So whenever that happens, like I feel like the comfortability that can add will just elevate the quality of your gameplay against those characters, and overall just allow you more flexibility. Even if you are a little nervous, right, you can just go back to what works. But if you don't
You
know what works, like I feel like it's really hard to do that. Okay,
I
you can go.
agree. I agree. You're good. You're good. You touched upon reads and callouts, and I just had to get this out right now because I feel like this is something that ties perfectly into mentality, which is you're fighting the opponent. You're not fighting the opponent's character,
Yeah.
right? So those basic toolkit understandings, fireballs, nades, these basic toolkits need to be able to be molded and modified to fight the opponent that you're playing, right? Some you'll fight so many different various skill levels, and some skill levels don't know how to deal with a certain option. Some skill levels are equipped to deal with another certain
Yep.
option.
Yep.
I think like a very good example might be like a slow fireball or a lob toss nade, right?
Mm-hmm.
Covers a really good space. How do they want to deal with it? Do they want to rush in? Do they want to run away? Do they want to wait it out?
Yep.
These game plans are great starting points, but it's always dependent on the player to be able to fluctuate them
Mm-hmm.
up and down, especially when you travel
Yes.
and you start fighting a lot of different skill levels of players. Some people you've never fought before, some people you fight twice a week.
Yeah. Like for me, I don't know if anyone's seen the set against Low One. I got bodied. Shout out to Low One. That's the homie right there. Um,
Yeah,
Very good Wario against
very
Snake specifically. Like he's a good player, right? He got 13th, but like Snake, oh my gosh, like
good.
he helped me learn the later in that day, and I was like, thank you so much. But like before that, oh my goodness, like that's what you need to improve, right? But it can just like smack you in the face sometimes with how like there's certain people out there just so good at certain matchups, right? Like because they've been playing against them so long. Kind of thinking of like brawl vets here, right?
It's that
Like
in-state versus that's the beauty of in-state, right? I think I see a lot of players that are maybe going to locals a lot and I honestly support them for that because they're getting so much experience every
Mm-hmm.
single week versus certain characters that are in their region because that's where you are, right? That's your region. You go out of state, you find a matchup you're common with. It's a good feeling, right?
Mm-hmm. Also, building on the fighting players in your state, I do want to say like one thing is like for local players coming up, if you want to like if you want to ascend to the top of your scene and do really well at majors because it's fun to you, interests you, all that good stuff. Be careful that you are learning the game itself and you're not learning just how to fight the opponent, right?
Yes, yes. This is a very good point. But continue,
So
continue. I cut
yeah,
you
no,
off.
no, no. Just like learn how to fight characters and learn how to like adjust accordingly because sometimes what will happen is people will end up just learning how to fight the players in their scene. So definitely keep that in mind, right? Like, you know, you want to fight as many good players as you can. And I say this like going to majors, honestly. Like I can tie this into it for ascending, local. Oh, I've been to my first major, I just got here. What should I do to improve and help? And I will say that the number one thing about major improvement is that you cannot care about the bracket that deeply. Like whenever you're in bracket, it's good, right? Like okay, do your thing, like focus on you, play your heart out. Like this isn't gonna be the last major you go to, so don't play like your life's on the line, but
Mhm.
play like you want to win and however you think is best. And then afterwards, you go out to the friendly setups or you go to, if you have to, money match setup and
Mhm.
you play as many different people as you can in sets because that is where the experience is going to come in. And bracket, you're going to get anywhere from, depending on if you're like low level to like top level, you're going to get anywhere from 2 to like 10
Sick.
good sets. Or well,
Yeah,
yeah, at a major, honestly, like unless it's like Smash, I'd say yeah, like 6 or 7 is a better estimate.
absolutely.
Like 4 to 6, 2 to 4 to 6, like around that area of good sets, and then
Mhm.
boom, the bracket's done. Because at that point, like whenever you do 6 sets, you're probably looking at like top 64. So it's like once you get to that point, people have been playing for years, so that's kind of learning player matchups. But getting to that point, right? If you don't know certain matchups, if you don't know certain characters, whenever you're at majors, this is a gathering of all like top level people who are playing certain characters that you don't have access to in your region. So while the bracket will matter, you kind of want to play these people as much as you can just so you get that experience because like it's not going to be there later.
You get your money's worth, man. You
Yeah,
spent like $300 to fly. You spent $100 on a hotel. You're here in this environment for 24
for
to
sure.
48 hours with these good, talented players. You're not gonna go and say hi to you two? Like, come on, go
Yeah,
say
yeah.
hi, get some money matches, get some friendlies, and
Mm-hmm.
enjoy the experience. Make some new connections, honestly.
For sure. And sometimes it can be tricky to say hi, but a lot of the times, like, I feel like people will overthink that interaction, and you just got to be like, what's up? And what's going on. And it's like the hardest part a lot of the times is approaching, like, is getting, past just saying hi to people. So once you do that, it becomes a lot easier that I found, like, to, break through the ice once you just start talking to someone. Like,
I know on my end actually at Glitch, it was weird seeing these talented players that I had seen through the screen all the time, and I
mm-hmm.
was like, wow, they're actually in person, but I have no clue what to say because I think the top players, like for example, we had to fight. Me and Isahel did doubles together. Shout out to Isahel, Link player from Chicago, really
Yep,
cool.
yep, yep.
We did doubles together, and one of our matches was against Light and Wadi, and we were like,
Mm-hmm.
they know like who they are, right? They're pretty obvious with their image and they are very, very talented players. They know they have eyes on them. It was nervous to be like, hey, what's up? How are you? What's going on?
Mm-hmm.
But later throughout the day, I noticed that's what people were doing to each other. They're like, yo, you're Ikan the Ryu. Yo, you're Apollo Kage the Snake. And you just start talking. Once you start just talking, everything is easy because
Yep.
there's a common interest called Smash Brothers right in front of you.
Yeah.
So don't be nervous about talking to people socially. Give them a nice compliment and see if they bite back. That's about it.
Literally, like, a lot of the times the hardest thing to do is to start it. So once you get it started, people are just talking, and you can always just rely on Smash to tie it together. And I feel like one thing that helps with nerves is like if you have to fight someone, humanizing them. Like if you're fighting someone super good, like if I have like when I had to fight Tweak, just like getting to have a little bit of a conversation with him before I played him, it was just humanizes the person, brings them down to they're not some deity. They're not going to be someone who reads all your options, right? They're human too. So it's like you just got to play your game and see what you need to work on. It doesn't really go much deeper than that, I feel. And a lot of times people will get in their heads and psych them out when it's like the worst thing that happens is like you'll lose to a good player. And
Literally, that's
like tying what we started with at the beginning of the mentality of like old versus new is I feel like in my old mentality I just didn't really respect the players I was playing against whenever I'd play a MOBA, right? And I found that whenever you respect your opponent, if bad things or like not even bad things, but things don't go your way is a better way of putting it, then when you have more respect for your opponent, the things that they hit you with become like less bothersome to get hit by, right? Because it's not like you messed up, it's like your opponent did well. And I feel
Yeah.
like reversing right there is like people in general just if you give credit to your opponent in that moment, like some people like they won't even realize they're doing this, right? Because it's like it can be a small thing, but like just the way, even it could be as simple as saying like I suck after you get hit by something, instead of being like oh, good stuff, like you did well there. And like the subconscious stuff of that will be like so hard to reverse, but when you like make a conscious effort to just reverse how you think about it and give credit to the opponent, I found it's a lot easier to kind of process that stuff. For people who like get super frustrated, worry about losing, all that good stuff, like when you respect your opponent, the worst that can happen is your opponent plays well and you have stuff to learn, in my opinion.
A good way to look at what you just said, building off of it, is treat your opponent like a coach. Honestly, this is a very weird way to look at it because you want to
Oh,
destroy your
okay.
opponent and get through forward to
Yeah, yeah.
bracket. But if you look at your opponents as a way to teach you more about the game, it's like honestly you're just playing for coaching. By coaching, I mean you're testing yourself at your best versus somebody else at their best. Right? You're gonna play against them, get your information, and you'll learn a lot after. Because worst case scenario, you ask them for friendlies, get some money matches in, get some more games. You're there. You might as well play. Right?
Hmm.
Having that mutual respect for a better player or even any player as an opponent is going to make you feel more open to trying new things and adapting rather than having the expectation that you'll always win and you'll get
Yeah.
sloppy, or the expectation that
Like
you'll always lose and you're a bad player. You'll also get sloppy.
literally,
Treat
and I
mutual.
oh, I actually I feel what you're saying like so hard right now, and I'm like just whenever we're talking about players like in levels, right? Everyone perceives themselves as a certain level of player, and I hear this all the time, and I'm like, oh, or the people will say, why am I losing to players worse than me? But that's not a thing. That doesn't exist. Like just like going into that, right? When you get to that point, you just need to like, that goes back to the respect thing, right? Like all those levels, they're like arbitrary. They're labels that are put out there. Like same with PR, right? Like it's numbers, it's stuff you can say, you can announce, but none of that decides like what happens in game. It's like that's why upsets are a thing, right? You have all these stats, you have all these statistics, but sometimes like players will beat other players that they're not seeded to beat them, and it's not like oh, I'm losing to players so much worse than me. They just either played the matchup well, or they taught you something that you needed to learn. It's like in those moments it can be hard for to process that, right? But at the end of the day, people, I feel like people focus too much on not losing to players worse than them, especially like higher level players, when it could be looked at as it's an accomplishment to beat someone so skilled. You know what I mean? So like it should be a good thing for both sides. Like you have something to learn from as the experienced player, and the players that are playing against you, right? They played well. So it's like it can be a positive experience for both. And it's like I feel like these like mentality shifts, then you start to play more loose, right? Because you're like there is no pressure for me to lose to a worse player, because if I lose then I just have stuff to learn. So then you like fall back on stuff you want to try. Maybe it stops you from slipping back into that playing to not lose instead of playing to win autopilot. And I feel
Yeah.
like that a lot of the time can happen. Like and you even like going off of this, you can reverse it, and we can go into, if you want, talking about like how players sometimes will get nervous and just give up wins and not trust how they were playing originally at the end of sets.
I think
Because
nerves is a wonderful topic to go into,
yeah, yeah.
actually. I
So
think
um
it goes for both levels. It goes for the upper level players who are maybe highly seeded and they're expected to win, and those lower level players who are trying to make that come up and trying to get that
mhm,
big wins. They can put it to their resume, right?
yeah.
Goes both ways.
Like just putting the wins in the resume, like it's just like the one thing I want to say about like the nerves thing for like the person making the upset, right, is
Mm.
that I will say this once and I'll probably have to say it again in the future,
Good.
but I think it's
Good.
so important that you need to play like play like how you've been playing, because it's what got you there. So like
Yeah.
people, they'll get like a top player to the last stock and they're like, oh, I gotta start doing random things to throw them off, or I gotta do my Hail Mary mix up, and I'm like, if you were just doing Hail Mary mix-ups the whole game, do you think you would have got here? Like, do you think if you just ran up and like diddy barreled into the opponent, you would have like took them to game three last stock? And it's just like in those moments, you just gotta play how you want to play, and if you want to go for that Hail Mary play, just make sure it's like a hard read, right? Something you noticed a while before and you've been saving, but like sometimes you'll get to the last stock and it feels like I'm playing against a completely different player. Or like I'll watch a set and like the last stock of like a potential upset is literally a different player. Like I don't know what goes on there. Like you get too antsy maybe, or like just a lot going on. But I feel like in those moments, if like you can to find the key to consistency, if you just stick to your game plan you already have, it will what are you like what are the mistakes you're making whenever you're like on your game, right? You didn't change it up randomly, so you're not just randomly forward smashing in neutral, but like even if you do lose those situations, because you will, like that's a part of it, like just accept it, because no human's perfect. Every single top player you can think of has lost many sets
More
to
than you
eat.
probably, honestly.
Yeah, like
Literally,
a
right?
lot of the time. So it's just like in those moments you're gonna lose some, so whenever you lose them, like I feel like the positive mentality can be the fastest way to get back on track with like even just reviewing after you lose, right? You give respect to your opponent, it doesn't sting to lose, you get to learn stuff, and then it's all about like breaking it down on how to go from there, and how to where do I go from here after things didn't go my way.
Agree completely. I mean, here's the thing, right? Humans are human, right? And
Yeah.
because of that, we're going to have those emotions of greed to try and get that last hit, or we're going to feel a little bit anxious, or we're going to feel maybe just confused in the moment. But not many people talk about this. The experienced players have been through that before, and they know how to counteract people's anxiety or people's greedy options. They've already been through it because they've done it already before, probably in the past, right? So when you fight these really good players and you're fishing for this really good last hit, and you don't get it, it's because you're letting your human side of you take over the mental side of you. Your emotions are taking over your head when it should be vice versa, right?
Yes, yes,
Actually,
yes.
I felt this yesterday at Ignite. I got reverse three stock by Quinn because I was fishing for
Mm-hmm.
the same back air confirm in the corner, and he just killed me for it every single time. And that's when I started to start adapting and let my head take over for game five. But that's the thing, right? You have to have the competitive mentality to see the long set, see the finish line, but not jump to it too soon. Otherwise, you're going to trip over the line, right?
Yeah, totally agreed. And like um for example, I want to say recent tournament I went to SOS 7, which was an Ohio tournament, and I want to say whenever I was in particular fighting Zenodo, um, he went up 2-1 on me, and what I noticed is like in game 4 I started using like Z-Nade Kita, right? That would be
Mm.
like one of those things that you figure out for a game plan and you stick to it. And I used it a little bit in game 4 and it worked, and I managed to clutch out game 4. So game 5, I was like, I used my head and I'm like, okay. So from what I did game 4, I managed to clutch it out. So I want to see what's working. So I was like, oh, Z-Nade Kita seems to net me neutral openings. So game 5, I spammed it and
Yeah.
I won. So it's like those little adjustments, those little game plan things. Sometimes you'll discover them mid set. It's just like when you're able to keep yourself in it mentally, you're able to like analyze what's going on with like a more clear head, right? Because like if I was getting mad that Zenodo would hit me and keep me in neutral for 90%, that's gonna take away from the mental energy that I could be using on how to how to beat him on the ground whenever I get back to neutral, like whenever I'm done with the disadvantage state or the new stock. Even like sometimes you're gonna get hit and you're gonna lose a stock. That's how it goes, because sometimes you're gonna hit someone and they will lose a stock. Like sometimes stocks just explode because humans get red, like humans
Yes.
body each other, and that's
Or
kind
they
of the
got the
appeal of the
guess
game.
right. They got you. They knew where you were
Yeah,
going to be, right?
literally, like you just got, and you're gonna get people. They're gonna get you, and it's like, you know, rather than being
Part of the
like,
game.
oh, that sucks. Yeah, yeah, it's part of the game. It's gonna happen. So it'd be like, all right, you got me. Now I'm gonna get you back though. Like I feel like that's a little healthier than being like, ah, God, like
You're playing catch with stock. Oh, you got
yeah,
one. Oh, I got one. Oh,
yeah,
you got one,
literally,
right?
like I mean, that's kind of the way I've been thinking about it recently. Like, shout out to the homie Doorstop. He won SOS. He got me this
I
weekend or last weekend. Like, he bodied me. Like, he got it. But
Yeah.
before that, I managed to take sets. So I think it's like especially fun when you get to like that level of play where it just sets go back and forth and back and forth, because then like each player is so excited for the next set and they're like, you don't know what's gonna happen.
Oh yeah. Shout out to Doorstop. He played amazing,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
I got to meet him at Lua, and he was a wonderful guy. So
yeah.
really huge shout outs to him. Hopefully I'll see him. Hopefully come to Chicago at some point. Really, really talented
Yeah, I
player,
hope
and
so. I hope so.
Chicago has no clue how to fight zero suit too, so it'd be pretty easy for him.
Uh,
Actually, I have a question for you when you talk about fighting Zenodo.
yeah.
This is something I was thinking about. So, you know Zenodo is a high caliber player, right? You know he's
Yes.
probably able to make adaptations on the fly. Why did you so Z-Drop nade Nikita, right? I said that
Yeah.
right? Okay, cool. It worked a lot in game 4. When you were going into it, spamming it in game 5, did you ever have the fear that he would adapt and throw you off your game plan, so you didn't
Okay.
wanna overuse it?
um, okay. So my thought process game five is actually a little funny here. Um,
Okay.
in my head, I was like, what does Diddy do to beat this? Because I specifically noticed that Nikita would stop Banana in the air, and Banana's transcendent usually, so it doesn't happen like that. But Nikita was blocking Banana because I was like, that's the way he's gonna beat it, right? He'll throw a banana, it'll hit me, and it didn't hit me. So I was like, I don't know what Diddy Kong does about it, so I just kept doing it, and it kept working. Like I was like, I don't know what I do about this as Diddy Kong, so that I spammed it and it just worked. Like it kept working, so I kept doing it. Sometimes like it can be hard to make those like high adaptations on the fly. I feel like especially against players who played in Brawl, right? Like they're so used to ultimate, or they're so used to Brawl Snake in general, and like a lot of players who played against Snake and Ball, like feel like the little stuff that changed from ultimate is going to keep them in the meta. Like I actually made a tweet about this the other day and got ratioed, and I was like, okay, you'll see. But
We'll see, we'll see, we'll see.
yeah, it was talking about how I think Ultimate's like Snake and Smash Ultimate is gonna like be top tier in the meta for longer than Brawl, because in Brawl there's like 34, 36 characters, something like that,
36,
and
36.
36, yeah. So he was top two because people like didn't know how to fight him, and he fell to like top six, right? And that's not a big drop off, but like in Brawl, the top three,
Are
whew,
stupid. You got
yeah, yeah,
Mr. NATO, Mr. and Mrs. Grabbers, and I think
yeah.
it's Diddy after that?
Diddy or Oli?
Diddy or
I
more?
think Diddy Oli.
Ollie, right?
Or
And
yeah,
Mr. I'm gonna throw my stuff at you and you're
yeah,
gonna
yeah.
deal with
Six Pikmin
it.
or two bananas. Like take your
Yeah,
pick.
exactly.
But in this game, I feel like Snake is one of like he's not hard execution wise. That's one thing I appreciate in this game is there's like different ways characters are hard. Like Sheik is hard in a different way than Snake is, for example.
Yes.
So it's like Snake, I feel like he's like more of a thought character. Like say what you will. Sometimes you have to set up plans and in general like just the thought process of him. But like him as a character to play, his movement's a little weird. He's a little like sluggish. But aside from that, he's easy to use him. The way that he's hard is like that you have to set everything up in the future, right? You have to like plan grenades accordingly. You have to get like the down throws and to grenade setups, or you have to choose like just the shield pressure wisely, because if they start like if they notice your shield habits, you'll die because you're not that safe. So it's like you got to coordinate grenades for that stuff. So it's like that's the tricky part, right? But that's not really execution wise. That's knowing where your grenades are going to go and knowing where to position at. It's just like, and then you have characters who are hard execution wise, like Steve. Like say what you will about Steve, right? He's got the baby bread and butters for 60 to 50, right? Like those easy combos, but then you do like the hard ones like NILs, like
And I also have
that's
fair.
hard.
That's hard.
Um like in general, he can kill you. Like if he grabs you, he should kill you. And it's like I feel like characters like Peach are like that too, where she's like her zero death stuff is super hard to do, like super mechanically demanding. And it's just like you have characters like that who are hard on the mind. You have characters like that who are hard on the hands, and some characters are both. And it's just like, um, in general, I feel like where I'm going with this is just like account like I want to different ways of going about it will require different solutions, right?
There you go. Yeah.
So yeah, I was trying to get to it so hard, but it's
Yeah,
just like the beauty of Smash is that the same method won't work for everything, but that's also difficulty. Like
exactly.
um
It's why it's so hard, right? Because not everybody has the same path, right? Some players are working towards completely different things. Like for
mhm,
example, I take Joker players with Arsene, right, are really, really confident, but they get thrown off stage once and the opponent knows how to edgeguard their Arsene recovery. That's something they're gonna have to worry about.
yeah.
But you think Joker's worrying about neutral, or you think Joker's worrying about like really any movement problem? No, that's not a problem for the character. I'm
Mhm.
playing a slower-ish character who needs to control stage with Fireball. Movement is something that I need to take incarnate, otherwise I'm gonna get blown up off stage too, right?
Yeah,
So it's
yeah,
a lot of it. Everybody has different paths, right? Every different burst
yeah.
options,
Mhm.
different ranges, and some characters are harder, some characters are easier. That's kind of, just how it is, but being a good player will always take pretty similar difficulty routes, I will say.
Yeah, yeah. It's like a lot of times you can like it. the player difficulty or the character difficulty won't matter as long as you're a good player, right? If you can use your character to the best of the ability, sometimes you can make the character that's hard to work with more effective than the easier characters per se. That's why
Mhm.
I feel like Joker and Pyramithra kind of like same spot, right? So I
Mhm.
think Joker's the best personally. I think
I think,
it might be Snake bias because he does really well against Snake. So I
yeah,
don't know if that's like my bias coming in. You know, some people say Pyramithra, some people have been saying like Pikachu. I've been hearing less, but you know he's
yeah,
still up there for
yeah.
some people.
Mhm.
So just in those moments, like you have Joker. I think Joker's peak, especially like there's been talks about footstool down gun things.
That stuff is crazy,
Yeah,
dude.
like if that gets optimized, and then just like you know you have Pyramithra who are like not easy. Like I think people go they exaggerate a little bit how easy they are, and they, granted I don't play them very much at all because I don't think they're that fun. But it's like no character is easy at top level, obviously. But like Joker, it's like a lot harder, just like mentally taxing, you know, just to play a character that needs you to do everything compared to like you know Pyramithra. Like you can move them around, you still have to position well, you still have to call out your opponents and get the reads. Like they're not going to play the game for you, which I'm happy that we don't really have top tiers like that in this game.
Me
Like
too.
a lot of the time, like good player skill will win out over you know just a character. There aren't characters that you can just pick and just you know like there is no brawl MK.
No, no, there
Yeah,
isn't like a clear best, which I think is why Ultimate is such a
yeah,
fun game. It probably will be like this for maybe another 2 years, 3 years, maybe. Honestly, it's gonna be quite a while before things really change for this game. I feel. I think a lot of high
yeah.
tiers are always gonna be able to make splashes in the meta. Mid tiers, even honestly.
Yeah, sometimes
Ooh,
like if they get that bracket, you know what I
look at the
mean?
back. You're good, right?
Yeah, yeah.
It's the beauty of diversification. Speaking of Footstool Joker, by the way, Footstool Down Guns. I hope it's practical. I think we see a lot of theory that it just isn't practical. But I think why Pyramithra are so good is because sweeping hitboxes, and they're not easy, but the word I'm going to use is forgiving. You don't need to be on point with some spacing. You don't need to
Yeah.
be on point with a couple of things. And the recovery, sure, it's hard a little bit, but you have a lot of room to make.
Yeah, there's
make
leeway.
yeah, there's a lot of leeway. Forgiving is the word I use nowadays instead of easy for characters. I
Oh
think
yeah,
it's the
that's
right.
true. That's true.
It's a good
Yeah,
word to
yeah.
use.
That's a better alternative. Let's go. Let's go. Um, I think in general, like those little like changes, the word shortcuts, you know, better ways to think about it. Like that's I'll probably use forgiving from now on too because I feel like that's a more just more practical way to talk about it. Again, removing just like you know the little nuances like easy can be seen as a bad thing. So you know like you know forgiving, unforgiving. Like at the end of the day, if a character's that easy and you're like frustrated about it, you like
You
you
should play
could
'em.
play that character. You're like yeah,
Yeah.
you could pick him up, you could play him, but
Ooh, yeah.
in general, speaking of Footstool stuff, you got Waddles in chat asking about Mewtwo, how he'll develop in the meta with Footstool, and honestly, I can branch this through a lot of characters, which is kind of why I
Mhm.
picked it out. Like one I'll say for instance is like Greninja, Cash using a lot of Footstool like down air and just stuff like that, and Steve, Footstool Anvil, that's broken.
Oh,
That is
Steve,
very
so good.
broken.
So good. Because it
um,
comes out anyway. That's the
yeah,
thing.
it comes out anyway. It's like multi hit. Oh my goodness, like Steve.
Landing hit to oh,
Yeah, no, it's very good. So it's like those little things, those little tech changes, but like that's not going to be enough to define like you know high tiers not winning, right? Like there's the top tiers don't have oppressive options, so I think it's cool whenever tech is like shown off like that. You know, like just in general, the game's getting like optimized, but like good players can still make their characters work. Like you know, you got Leo playing Byleth now, winning stuff, and Spargo playing Cloud. And whilst I think Cloud is a very good character, I don't think he's top five. I don't even think Byleth is a top tier. I think that's just you know Leo doing his thing with the player skill, like we talked about, and like I feel like the meta for this game it has almost 90 characters. There's no way we're developed like at this point. Like there's so much more to be found out. There's so many more shortcuts to be found. Like there's a lot of stuff already, right? But like
yeah.
people are gonna know micro spacing in a couple of years. That's crazy in this game. I
Oh
feel.
yeah. I am so ready to start Ryu micro walking back and then down
Yeah,
smashing him.
yeah,
It's gonna be
like
the coolest thing of all time.
yeah,
If you had to
yeah.
put a percentage on how close you think we are to Ultimate's max meta, what would you say from 1 to 100? Because I have a number in mind too.
45%.
45. That's pretty good. I had 33. I was like a third. We're a third of the way
Okay, I was
through.
thinking 45, 35. I'm like,
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of stuff because we're not getting patches. Like we will find it out, but I think like we haven't even discovered half of the stuff in this game. Like
Yeah, it might also just be dealing with the buffer, getting more comfortable with
yeah,
the game engine, right? Like
because
Imagine dealing with Steve blocks more, like getting used to like standing on the block, knowing when it's gonna disappear, and then picking the right
yeah,
option. Like that stuff's gonna be insane for characters, right?
Optimized Steve is one of the characters that I think can kill the game. Like not so much kill the game, but Steve can break the game.
I think so
Like
too.
with enough time, like if stuff ever gets found out and I'm like, Snake's not doing it, I'm going in a hyperbolic time chamber and I'm just labbing Steve. I'm coming back outside of Steve main. I know actually the Ikan Steve. I don't know
You
how
heard
many
of it.
people know about it. Yeah, yeah, I have heard of the Ikan Steve.
For those of you who don't know, when the Wi-Fi era came around from around May 2020 to before I came to university, I'm in my university dorm. Hello. September 2020. I was trying to play Wi-Fi Ryu and it wasn't really working out that well because I just couldn't react to anything and fireball anything. Steve comes out in October. We have some online tournaments go on. I say, well, maybe the Ryu can go away for a little bit. I don't want to play Ryu online anyway. I play Ryu offline, but I play Steve for a couple months. It was pretty fun. I will say I got some nasty
That's
clips. Diamond
awesome.
Racker is not okay. And I haven't gone back to him because offline came back. I want to go back to my soul main, my favorite character, my best character. But Ike Steve, it's my Wi-Fi relic.
The Wi-Fi relic. I thought about doing that. Like come back to Wi-Fi tournaments as a Steve main because I didn't want to play Snake online.
I might start farming college tournaments with my Steve. I was thinking about it. They're like,
Oh,
oh my god, Ryu is so broken. Like, come on. I was like, all right, I'll give you the Steve.
yeah, yeah. Okay, so let me give me 1 second.
We are at 240 right now, if you're curious about time.
Yeah, yeah. So, all right. Now I want us to get into talking about being an upper seed and also not fearing losses and tilted mindset. So we'll go with that.
You want to start with Tilted?
So yeah, tilted. Let's do it. Do you want to start this one off?
Yes, I got you.
Okay.
Don't take it so seriously is my first thing I'm going to say. I feel like when people get tilted on something they see, they're trying to expect too much of the game and not enough credit to their opponent is given. That's the big thing to me. I feel like a lot of players are really in this expectation hole of like, oh, I need to win this. I'm going to be okay with this. But I got hit by such a scrubby option or such a bad option or an option no higher level player would do, right? Come to realize that wake up call ultimate has a lot of options and you will not be ready for all of them at every given time no matter how smart you think
Yep.
you are. That's the big thing,
Like
right?
90 characters. Like
90 characters.
your head would have to be like a dictionary of ultimate to know everything. Like just there's so many interactions. Like if people want to say that they know most of the interactions at this game, I'm just gonna show them Steve. Like that character is 20 different ways to break the game, not even scratching the surface of him. So it's like there's so many little things and little scenarios and just like little interactions that you might be caught off guard for. But like, you know, what I always say to do is take a deep breath on the Angel platform. Like that can definitely help. I'll
Mhm,
just like calm myself down
mhm.
and give myself a way back into it with a clear headspace to reset. Don't be afraid to use that 5 seconds to your advantage. It's there for a reason, right? So
Yeah,
it's like in those moments I do feel like they're like the expectation can get ahead of people. So it's like in that moment just remember, it's a two-player game. You're just take it one interaction, one read at a time, right? Like just don't get too down into it. Don't get too, just too into that. I don't want to call it like a gutter mentality, but whenever you start thinking and like heading down that hole of expecting stuff from the game and like taking it too seriously, it just gets
Mhm.
harder and less clear to you that you're doing it, and harder to stop it, I'd say,
I agree.
because it can
Why
just
do you
like spiral. What's up?
Yeah, I agree. I agree. Why do you think people get tilted like a lot? Do you think it is like
Hmm.
such a burning desire to
So
win and can't take an L or like what are you thinking?
I feel like it's different depending on the person, obviously, but like I feel like people care a lot, which is not a bad thing, but I feel like in time you've got to like it all goes back to that opponent respect thing. Whenever I respect my opponent and I get hit by something, I tend to, instead of thinking like in terms of that it was not a good play, I tend to like, if you're respecting your opponent, you give props to them, and by giving props to them you're relieving pressure off of yourself. So
Yes.
it's like a something that builds onto each other, right? Like you do one
Mhm.
and it accomplishes the other, so it's just like overall an easier task. And it's like expectations, like a big thing with those is like for me, whenever I came back off like the SmashCon win, it's
Yes.
like that's the biggest win of my career, like bar
Mhm.
none. So it's like just because you got that win, like you should pat yourself on the back for it, but don't let it dictate what needs to happen in the future. Because
Yes.
honestly, like what my thought process is with it and how I go into tournaments now is like I'm like, depending on the day, I can beat anyone or lose to anyone. I could win this bracket or go 0-2. Like
Yes.
it just depends on it because one brackets, sometimes there will be a character matchup and sometimes like that's how it goes, right? Like a lot of the times there is room for outplay. Like there are no unwinnable matchups in this game, but sometimes like you're not going to get the best bracket luck. Like for Snakes it would be Mega Man. Mega Man's probably rough for Ryu too, I'd imagine.
I I used to think it was bad, but I found some nice tech. I'm not gonna
Oh,
say
okay,
anything, but let's
okay.
say
Never mind, never
Shuriken
mind.
and Leaf
But
Shield have
d-
funny interactions. But
okay, okay,
continue. Yeah.
okay. All right, all right. Yeah, the little icon secret, but just like certain things like that, like it's gonna happen. So you might as well just play through it and try to learn as much as you can. And like for example, it's just like I feel like one word in particular. If I could remove one word from vocabularies and replace it with another word, I would
Mhm.
change should to could
Yes. Yes.
because
Agreed. Completely.
should is a very toxic word. It's a
It,
very toxic word.
it's entitlement. It's literally
Yes.
expecting that things are always gonna work for you because you're a Mary Sue and you deserve everything. No, that's not how this world works.
No. Like you gotta earn it. You gotta earn the W. Just because I'm number one on a PR, just because like I'm at the one spot does not mean I win every tournament.
No.
I got fourth in my last local, y'all. Like,
I've gotten 13th at ignition, guys. These things
literally,
happen. Literally, it's
it,
not a big deal. Like I
yeah,
think something that is
dude,
crazy that I think people don't really understand from their perspective of the general player base is that top rate players are also improving too.
yeah,
So just because you might get a good win on somebody, like take it like this, right? Your win on ESAM, right? Or
mm,
maybe I don't know. I could have any win on Pelly. I'm gonna say Pelly because like it was
yeah,
Sonic and Ryu, right? Bad matchup, right?
yeah,
Those wins, right, are equivalent to say somebody lower on our PR taking a win over us, right? And
yeah,
that's great for them, and that's great for us as well. Having that good win, stepping stones ahead is amazing. But one good win does not define your skill. It is simply a peak in improvement, and it's onto you to either maximize that or if you fall, come back up, right?
yeah,
It's simply a turning point in your improvement process. It's like God saying, hey, this thing is here. How are you going to handle this, right? And it's a
yeah,
very easy way to go up and keep going further or spiral down and have to build yourself back up. Both are still alternatives that will lead you to that success. The problem is, how do you comprehend it with your mentality?
yeah. I feel like one thing is like, I was watching Tweak Talks the other day, and they had Leo as a guest.
Okay, it's
Yeah,
cool.
shout out to Tweak Talks. But
Yeah.
he was talking about how like the inner monologue inside your head is a big key. So it's like one thing that he was saying is he's like I'm gonna win inside my head, right? Like just even if on the outside, like just you're just being like you're having a conversation, talking about whatever before the set. Sometimes you do talk before a set, sometimes you just go into it and playing it, but just like respecting your opponent while also having faith in yourself, right? Like just because you're like my opponent's very good does not mean that you count yourself out of it at all. Because whenever you get to that point, you can have respect for an opponent and give them credit, but you also got to hype yourself up. You got to like in your head, you got to be like, I can do this. I like whenever I went into losers at SOS, I won two sets, but before I played those sets, I tweeted I believe in myself because I did. I believed in myself to do it, and then I managed to take sets over two very talented players. So it's like just having that little bit of faith. I feel like that a lot of times in those clutch last hit scenarios where it's like, oh, I could lose this is like what pulls through, right? Because you're like, if I lose it, I just got something to learn. If I don't, then let's go. Like, let's run it. So I feel like,
If you don't
um,
believe in yourself, your character. Sorry.
who will? No, no, you're good. Like,
um,
like if you don't believe in yourself, who will, right?
exactly, right? I was gonna jump off right there. It's just
Yeah,
you have to have some kind of faith or reason to keep playing, and that passion is what leads to hard-earned victory. Honestly, not having faith, or say maybe a lower level player is going into their bracket, first ultimate bracket, and they see their round two is the number one seed of the tournament,
yeah.
and they're like, "Oh, there's no way I can win this. There's no way. I'm so out of practice. I'm
Not with
just
that attitude.
at min for the first 2 weeks. This guy is gonna blow me up, right?" Instead of going with that mentality, I think a good way to go is, okay, this is a good player. I'm gonna try my best, right? and I'm gonna just see what I can learn from this to try and be
Yeah.
at that level someday as an inspiration, as a coach, as somebody who
Yep.
can teach you more, right? And that's where I think ego might come in the way as you get a better player. Like you should
Mm-hmm.
never be losing, but you forget that you're also improving just like these lower level players are. Just because you reached a point doesn't mean you're entitled to every single win in a tournament. You got to
Yes.
keep moving forward. And that's always going to be the biggest thing.
I agree. Like just moving forward and not giving up, right? Like
Exactly.
the hardest thing will always be, how do you get back up? Like get knocked down, how do you get back up as long as you don't give up? I mean, it's not like failure to me. I feel like we've had this conversation in person specifically, but I feel like the definition of failure is kind of turned on its head in these repetition competitive sports where it's like failure is so demonized whenever it's literally a part of the process. So it's just like it's less about the failure and more so about how you can bounce back from it and be better the next time, right?
Absolutely. I think that's what makes the best players. Like people
Yeah.
don't know because a lot of new players came into Ultimate, but Leo in 4 was not inconsistent, but he was definitely like going up and down, right? I remember he was doing really
Yeah.
good. He got great wins over like Zero, Nairo, right? Really great wins, but then there were also days where he got 65th at Evo at some point or something. Like
Yeah.
these players who are at the top and we cherish, we idolize. So much respect for all those top players. I hope I get to meet them at some point, right?
Mm-hmm.
They've gone through so many more losses, ups and downs than probably any of us have so far in Ultimate.
Yeah.
And that's just the beauty of what makes top players so strong is that you put yourself forward and you've been able to maximize it. It's why I have a lot of respect for you, honestly, because you've only been playing since Ultimate, right?
Yeah, I actually so here's what happened. I was Smite player from like I want to say 2015 to like 2018, like mid 2018, like
Got it.
competitively. And then my brother, who is Quilly Koopa, is well, whenever Ultimate came out, he was like, "You won't get into the game," and I was like, Bet I won't get into the game." So I
Okay.
originally
Okay.
I picked up Luigi because he's my favorite Nintendo character,
Yep.
and in general, I picked him up. It didn't work after a couple months, and then I found Snake. And in general, like the thing that really changed, I feel like, is like this mentality is what allowed me to kind of accelerate. And it's just like being patient. You're gonna lose, but that's what you should look forward to because that points you in the right direction. Um, I basically everything has been clicking. I've been grinding and catching up. So it's like right now is like one of those transition periods where I'm like, I feel like to level up right now, I need more experience. So I kind of just like for these past couple events and for the couple events coming up like this the next 6 months, right? I'm just gonna be like placements, whatever. If I do good, I do good, but I just need the experience. And that's like one thing that people don't account for a lot of times. I feel like is like sometimes you just need experience. Like think about how many tournaments Leo has been to compared to you, or like how many tournaments Tweak has been to compared to me. Some stuff like that. Like it's just like they've gotten so much more experience, and sometimes that's going to be what gives you the right answer. That's how you can get in people's heads and feel that fear factor because you've been in this scenario before, because you've been to so much. I feel like sometimes people will not have that much experience and like be expecting that, like you said before, but it's like a lot of times you just got to leave it up to the cycle, like trust the process. And
Agree.
um
Familiarity is so important. Like you just have to be familiar with the situation so
yeah.
much that it just becomes second nature, right? It's the same
Yes.
idea as you putting like a snake combo of knowing the nade's gonna blow up after the throw and you get a nair after for 45, 50
Yeah, yeah,
damage. The same idea in the mental as it is on execution with your GameCube controller.
literally. I feel like sometimes people will like overplay, and I think sometimes like you need to give yourself time to process it. So sometimes your brain will be faster than your hands are, and I
Mhm.
feel like that can be an issue that people run to, is like finding the balance. But what I like to do with that is like I'll like bounce off of just playing and then watching VODs and letting my brain process it. And I think one thing that's super slept on for improving that we'll go a little off topic for, but theory
Sure.
crafting. Oh my
Oh yeah,
goodness, carries. So
so
if you
broken.
theory craft, like because there are so many solutions, just thinking about it in your head, it sounds so simple. Like it sounds like the most simple thing, like of course, right? But like when you sit down and break it down for like 20, 30 minutes for like a certain matchup, it can be like the difference between figuring it out and sitting there for hours playing, like not understanding it. Like that is such a big thing. And I'm gonna give you a chance to speak, but I actually want to route this back into like higher seed, like when you're going in as the higher seed after this, right? So
Sure, sure.
here, you go. I just wanted to
Yeah,
let you know.
talk about theory crafting. I will
Mm,
say, okay, playing an FGC character in this game, I only do theory crafting. That's
yeah,
literally my whole thing. Okay. Shout outs to Ronan X. He's a Shoto player who I used to follow way back in 2019, but he was the king of Shoto theory crafting for Ken and a little bit of Ryu. Um, the thing that's so beautiful about it is that you are maximizing time and effort into the game, and you're getting the most reward you can out of it. Instead of mindlessly playing, just throwing random buttons and just practicing execution. If you have a mindfulness to try a new solution in a specific matchup, you can get really, really far. I think the biggest thing that I learned recently was the new Hadoken from the patch actually now clanks with spin dash long enough for you to get a punish. So livening out clanking and certain inputs and all that just led to a whole different change on the Sonic matchup instead of just shielding and waiting for him to try and hit me when he never is going to. And it showed because I took Sonics to game 9 Winners Finals Grand Finals.
Oh,
So
good
didn't take a set.
stuff.
It was really fun.
Yeah, yeah.
Really good. Shout out to him. If you're listening, you're such a cool guy. I hope to see you again at Genesis. But yeah, that
Sonic's is the
improvement
homie.
of yeah, he's such a good guy, and I hope he makes PGR. I think he's going to top 30
Oh, for
guaranteed.
sure. He's already there, honestly. Like,
Already there,
ain't
so
no
I'm very.
way.
Oh man, I'm so excited to just talk about players. Sometimes it's gonna be really
Yeah.
really fun. But yeah, theory crafting. Spend time 10 minutes just thinking about the game and options. To branch out from options to opponents, and that'll be so good for just helping out how you want to comprehend the game and your character's knowledge. Because let's be honest, right? We've been playing the game for so much, right? We know our characters' ins and
Yeah.
outs. It's really the other characters and how they interact with us, and that's how the matchups are going to form, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Use your knowledge, trust off that,
For sure, for
and
sure.
don't get nervous when you're a higher seed.
Yeah, yeah. All right. Thanks for going back into it. But
There you go.
so I've actually I did something to address this a little bit earlier that where I've been like in general I can beat any player and lose to any player. That's why whenever I go into a bracket with a higher seed, I'm not so much worried about the seed. Like I'm honestly, whenever I play a player, I'm more concerned about like what character they're playing, right? Like because I feel like that's the mode I have to get into with the game plan, like we were talking about, because there's so many of them. But I feel like seeds don't really mean much. The only things that they're there for is like to make sure the same players don't play each other like repeatedly, right? So it's like a seed is just a number, and if just look at it as like if whoever outplays each other is going to win, right? Like seeding aside, like if you just have to outplay them. Like it doesn't matter if you're the higher seed or lower seed, you just have to hit the correct buttons in the right order.
Mm.
Like in general, I feel like people psych themselves out a lot, and they'll kind of try to focus on things that aren't that important pertaining to like what's going on. And a lot of the time, like people get in their own heads over it, and they'll like mentally check themselves out, like sometimes in sets against certain characters, right? Like for example, I feel like one of these characters would be Steve, because like whenever I play Steve on Elite Smash, I get more rage quits in 2 weeks with Steve than I have in 2 years with Snake. So I'm like,
Yeah.
there are some characters that people get hit by and they snap. And Minecraft Steve, I love Minecraft Steve personally, so I never do
I
that
love him
myself.
too.
But like,
He's good.
I get
He's
it
great.
because he's a very unintuitive character to play against with the way he does play in the game. But I think like a lot of the times you just gotta like just find what gets you through it, right? Like for me, it's like giving respect to the Steve player in general, like when what they do, like how they were positioned, and just whenever I do that, even as like a higher lower seed, right, it just gives me more time and more focus to focus on the solutions rather than the emotions behind it. I feel like that will also loop back into what we said earlier about the mental, but I feel like seeds are just numbers. You don't really have to worry about like what seed you are, because it's just meant to place you in a bracket and then you play everyone. Like seeding does not matter the moment the bracket starts, in my opinion.
I agree. I think a lot of people try to put way too much stock in. I am seeded second. I'm expected to get second every single time. No, that's not how it works. The seed is
Yeah.
meant to make sure that you essentially are aligned with different opponents. So you don't
Mm-hmm.
play,
Different
Colorado
experiences.
round one, or I
Yes.
don't play Arc Dice round two,
I
right?
had
It
to
just
play
doesn't work that.
Colorado so much.
How many
Oh man,
sets do you guys have had?
like 26.
Okay,
Shot, shot,
I got
or
19 Arc Dice, so
oh
that's
my.
like, yeah.
Yeah, shout out to me and Driston having like 80 sets lifetime within a year and a half of Ultimate Snake Greninja.
Was that pre-COVID?
Yeah, free COVID.
Okay,
Like
nice.
80
Yeah,
sets. Like,
that's
jeez.
insane. Well, STL is a smaller scene, so I
Yeah,
guess it
yeah,
does make.
yeah. No, no, we played a Grands Winners Finals like for a streak of like 6 months consistently. So it was just like one of those things where we just play so much. But
That is
like
of all time.
like we said, right? He was seed one, I was seed one, he was seed two in those tournaments, so we just made it to each other. Like eventually we had to play. Even if I had to play him like round one, that was eventually going to happen in the bracket anyway. So it's like I feel like if people complain about their seeding, if you can't beat everyone who's in that tournament, then I don't really think you should win that tournament. Like, you know what I mean? Like the
Mhm.
tournament winner should be able to beat everyone, and as long as you're not playing like the same people, it's fine. that's where it gets irritating. Like when you're seeding the same person over and over. Like I can get that, but just like as the higher seeding in someone, when you remove like the toxicity and you remove like that way of thinking where it's like not giving respect to the opponent, it's just player versus player. You're just like giving respect to the opponent, and if they play well, they play well. You don't even think about the seeds at that point because you're just trying to outplay the opponent in front of you. Thinking about the seeds would be thinking about something outside the game, but you need that focus in order to focus on your opponent at hand, what they're doing in game.
You're wasting mental energy on things that really are not even related to the game, right? And I
Yes.
think a lot of people, something that I've noticed is that if you're not having fun with the game, you won't be able to maximize your effort into the game.
Yeah.
I realized when I've had having more fun with Ryu, I've been like playing better, which is like a weird correlation. But it's like if you love your character, you love the game, you're gonna want to put your best effort into it instead of focusing on
Yeah.
seeds, your opponents,
Oh,
the matchup ratio, tournament streak, how you did last week, how you're gonna do next week, what is PR
yeah.
standing looking like. All these
Yeah.
external things are just meant to throw you off your game.
Yeah, it's like maybe not meant to, but I feel like a lot of times people let it. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like on paper, it's just meant to be like a ranking system, so the TOs can get help seeding, but players will like get into that mindset where at the end of the day you just need to outplay your every opponent there. So it's like if you just use your mental energy on outplaying your opponent, then you're already like putting yourself in the right direction.
I agree.
Um,
Tell me what you think about this actually.
okay,
I don't know if this is a hot take or a lukewarm take, but I think it's going to be a take. Okay.
okay.
The best time to look at the numbers is after it's all done, as in the tournament is over.
So like, are you talking about looking at seeding after it's done?
Seeding, placements, game ratio, PR standing after a
Ah,
tournament.
I can get behind that. So
Yeah,
actually, I have a little major story for y'all.
sure. Talk to
So
me.
whenever I went to Riptide, whew, 49th. I was happy because I'd never placed top 64 in S tier before. But let me tell you who I lost to. So I lost to Tweak, number 2. And I got reverse 3 0'd by Louis Money, who got 7th. So
And
losing to,
he's the top 15 player in the world. So
yeah, losing to second, 7th, top 15 players in the world for 49th. That can be rough.
that is rough.
But when you look at the end of it, right, it's like, I only lost to these fantastic players. Like, it's nothing to be ashamed of, even if I didn't get the placing I wanted. But it's just like, if you look at it right after, then, like, Louis Money hasn't made that run yet. So, he hasn't gotten top 8. So it's like, even though I know how good Louis Money is as a player, like, right now, it's just like, in that moment, right after you lose, it can be, more demoralizing. So I actually can't agree and get behind that because, then you can see, well, I don't even have time to get mad about my seed because the tournament hasn't played out yet. So then after the tournament, sometimes you will place your seed, sometimes you won't. Sometimes you'll place below it, sometimes you'll place higher, but it gives you like a better peace of mind to go about it. And
Okay. Yeah.
I
I think.
yeah
Sorry, continue.
no, you go.
I think the scary thing about that is you you as a player have become so advanced that you didn't look at the 49th and get angry about it. Maybe for the first day. Of course, it's the first day. Everybody wants to focus
Yeah.
on their results, but you use that as motivation to try and move forward. Like, you know what? The only people that could outdo me in this tournament were top 15 players in the world.
Yeah.
I know that I can be at that level, and I know I have what it takes to
It's so
achieve
much
my goal.
fun. Oh,
It is, right?
yeah.
It's fun when you lose to really good players only because then you know you're there, right?
Yeah. Like
Bad bracket, say what you want, but you made it there, and that's what matters.
yeah, like I remember my favorite part about that day was how Louis Money like reverse 3 had like 5 people after me and I was like, okay. I was like, "Oh, so you're just playing
This
like
is
that
your
today, huh?"
day. This is
Like
your day,
like
bro.
yeah, you got it. But yeah, I think that's like a good way to think about it, and I didn't even think about it afterwards. But yeah, it kind of because like then if you place worse than your seed, sometimes people will put more pressure on themselves because it'll be like, oh, I got seeded so low, and then they'll place worse than their seed. So it's like you didn't need to put that pressure on yourself. You didn't need to make a big deal about it, and then with the opportunity to fail, you like put it right in front of you. It's like because someone who doesn't complain about the seeding and just plays right there's that's not even a worry in their mind because they're just playing. But if you like talk about the seed, and even if you think it's not fair seeding per se, I'd say prove it with your gameplay. Like I'd say outplay the seeding they gave you. You don't need to talk about it. Let the actions speak instead of the words here. It's like
Agreed.
let your play speak for it.
I've seen a lot of players talk about, oh my god, top players have such easy brackets. It's insane. They don't have to work until like top 64.
Oh,
And I'm like, well,
no.
they earned that, and they're also
Like
working way harder than you probably ever know. So
a lot
don't
of the
even.
times, like it's hard. It's tricky for everyone, right? Like no one
Yeah,
gets there free. Because I feel like saying they have easy brackets, like no, they're not. Top players aren't just playing like worse players. Like a lot of the times, like you have like for example, Jake's glitch run. Jake had to fight like light into other opponents
Cola.
afterwards. Yeah,
Yeah.
Cola, like Gact, like all these
Yeah.
great players, right? And it's like even if a top player whoever was seeded to play him like round 1 of top 64, like you're playing against third place in the tournament and you don't even know it. So it's like a lot of time you just got to be prepared for if that happens, to have like a mental plan. Don't be afraid to give them credit. Just whatever keeps your mental together and keeps you on like a solid footing in the game and lets you focus on the game in hand. Because like
Mhm.
everything else, when you're playing a tournament set, you need to have like laser vision on the screen, like what your opponent's doing, nothing else. Like you can't be thinking about other things that won't help you, because it'll do more harm than good.
Especially for you because you're playing Snake. That's like the character you need to watch the most of, right?
Yeah, yeah, and I don't want to toot my own horn thing. It's just like there's a lot going on, so you just got to pay attention. Like you just got to make sure you know what's going on. And I like switching from focusing on one thing to the next a lot. Like my brain has always done stuff like that. Like my brain just likes chaotic stuff like that. So I like having the option of being able to set up situations like that whenever I want. Because
Yes.
if I want to, there's gonna be me on the screen and I am the projectile. If I
Yes.
want to, I'm gonna have one grenade or two grenades, and all three of those is like three phases of a boss battle,
Yes.
literally.
Yeah.
So it's like having the creativity to choose like what kind of explosion boss battle I can make in the battlefield is kind of what brought me to Snake. But there might be like someone with a completely different philosophy playing another character for a different reason. Like I'm not sure what your reason is for playing like Ryu, other than your favorite character. Do you like the way he plays?
It's the combination of like, well, first off, cancels are super cool. I'm just gonna keep
Yeah,
it
yeah,
straight.
yeah.
They're
Like
really cool. But I think being able to kill confirm off really safe moves that once you get close and close the space is really, really rewarding for CQC, along with being able to be threatening with
yeah,
fireballs at far range. There's like a really strong mid range you can poke in and out of that I really,
mm-hmm.
really have just grown to love with my character.
Yeah, yeah,
And then all the little things come after. I'm like, all right, come on, he's just so cool. Why can I
yeah,
not? Right.
yeah, yeah.
But
For sure, for sure.
if you don't love your
Um,
character, you're not playing Smash. That's just how it
I
is.
I agree. Like Snake is, because like that's what gets you through like the low points, the points where like you're doubting everything, and because like whenever you have high points, like sometimes you will be like, I don't know, other character, I don't know, like a different thing. But like if you love the character, you always come back to him. That's why I can't drop Snake.
Okay.
Um, like
I'm
I
sure you've
want
had
to.
doubts about your character. You've been
What's
like,
up?
I'm sure you've had doubts about your character. Like maybe I should
Yeah.
have.
Well,
I should.
okay. So like the thing that's tricky with Snake, right, is I
Yeah.
think he's really good. I'm like the optimistic Snake, I guess, right now, or like one of them. Like there's a
Mhm.
few other optimistic Snakes out there. You know who you are. But
Yes.
in general, a lot of players, like even the Brawl vets, will just like be talking about how Snake will fall off like he did in Brawl. I actually don't believe that. I think Snake is going to be fine in this meta. So it's like I feel like that's whenever you're at a low point, like it's the easiest for me to be like, oh, maybe they're right about Snake and like the Brawl speculation, right? Like how he just
Because
wasn't as
they have
dominant
the
in that game.
experience too, so it's like, why would you not listen, right?
Yeah, right. But I'm playing Snake right now in Ultimate. I think he's like enough of a different character. Like in Brawl, he had a frame 9 jump squat. Like we're talking slower than Kazuya. So it's like
Seven in Kazuya.
in this game, frame 3 jump squat, we're already looking better. Directional air dodge makes his disadvantage better. So it's like I feel like I just I've gotten to the point where I think Snake is good enough to do it. It's been shown in the past, so I just need to get better as a player for myself. And I feel like if you're playing a character where you can get into that feeling with, like, you never feel like it's truly like Ryu, like you can always do better yourself, right? That's whenever
Mhm.
you're chilling. That's whenever you found your character. Because I think I think Snake is a top tier. So I
Mhm.
personally I don't want to play a character that's like worse than a top tier, because I like playing broken characters, because then I can't make an excuse for myself.
Agree.
Um,
That's a very good mentality to have.
like if I lose, it's on me. Like Snake, his character is broken, so it's
Yeah.
like if I lose, that's on me. That's me needing to get better. Nothing about my character. When I felt the opposite with Luigi, so even though I love Luigi, I dropped him. I was
Mhm.
like, I don't know if I'm losing sometimes or if it's the character shortcomings in matchups, so I just get rid of it completely.
Yeah. I'm in
Um,
a pretty similar boat with Ryu actually. I remember a lot, especially early Ultimate. Ken comes out, he's faster, fiery Shoryuken, anti-air. Ryu doesn't have Nair strings, right? Terry
yeah,
comes out, oh my god, supers! Oh, dude, you gotta check out this crack shoot
yeah,
move. It's so great. Kazuya electric? Oh my god, that's insane. Why would you not want to spam that every minute you get in neutral?
yeah,
It's
yeah,
invincible, right? I see all these people talking about it. I'm like, well, I still kind of like Ryu a lot, right?
yeah,
So I guess I see a lot of people they're switching. Nobody plays my character as much, and I'm like, well, I think he's still pretty good. And honestly, fast fireball and mid range seems pretty really nice. So
yeah,
I'm gonna
yeah,
take what I got, maximize every little thing I got, and I don't know if I can say that Ryu is necessarily a top tier, but I'm trying to say that he's good enough to do well in tournaments, and
Yeah.
I really like playing
I
as
mean, you're
him.
proving it. Top
So
24 in A tier. Like,
yeah,
let's go.
yeah,
Let's go.
it's pretty good. It's a good feeling when you're the one proving it. Can I just say that?
Yes, 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 yes.
It feels like your thoughts are validated in your gameplay,
Like,
right?
I'm like, Snake is broken. And then I play against someone who trains against Snake so often, managed to take the set still. It's just like, my Snake is different. Like, I remember one set in particular from whenever I was like first on the come up. So, like, Smash Up 2019 happens.
Yes.
I got fifth at that, which was a B tier. So that was like my first like breakout performance in St. Louis. Shout out St. Louis. So like that happens, and then I go to Kumite 2020, and I
Was that,
met
wait, was that in St. Louis? Where was
that
that?
was in Tennessee.
Tennessee. Sorry. There you
So
go.
my friend Globo is a Dragon Ball player. He's very good at Dragon Ball. So we went out there with him, and he was in the Dragon Ball tournament, and me and Dristan and Globo were in the Smash tournament.
Mhm.
And I remember that's where I met Scat, and I think after playing Scat for a minute, we sat down and had a conversation, and he actually told me like it was the first time someone had told me like that I was a top Snake player like in the world. Like he's like, I don't see like with some time why you couldn't be a top 5 Snake. So I was like, that was a big eye opener, and I remember I played against Makibas, the Palutena, very good Palutena player from I believe like Tennessee or Arkansas, one of those,
Southern State.
and
Okay.
um he has Pip, who is one of my very good Snake friends. He's number one in Tennessee, or was at the time. He's a
Mhm.
very good Snake player, and he was Pip's training partner. So it's
Mhm.
like whenever you get to play those players who have Snake training partners and like still come out on top, it's always a fantastic feeling. Like Esam MVD, Makibaz Pip. Let me think back to like just Zenodo had Kasev and Kepler. Just like so many Snake
Kepler, that's a
players.
name I haven't heard from a
Yeah,
lot. Is
yeah.
he still
I don't know. He like doesn't go to tournaments, but he's still a Snake homie. He's still doing his thing out in Michigan.
right? Glad to hear. Nice.
I'm not sure if he moved. I think I might. I'm
Dude,
not sure. I'm not sure.
people move in and out of Michigan
Yeah,
so
yeah, yeah. I
weird. Yeah.
I really want to go up there for a tournament too
Me
sometime.
too. Oh
Like
my
yeah,
God.
cause I think their scene is sick.
I feel like it's a very like I've heard
Oh,
people say it's
okay.
very campy and patient. I'm like, I want to try that out and just see how that feels. Um, we can talk about different scenes another time. I don't think
Yeah,
we have the
yeah,
time
yeah. We're getting
today.
a little off topic. So I think right now I think it's a good point to wrap up and kind of like take 5 minutes of just answering chat's questions. So like if you've
Yeah,
been
sure.
watching this whole time, if you have like any questions you want to get out now and ask, like let us know and we'll address them.
Yeah,
Um,
agree. That'd be really fun. I have chat open right
yeah, and then
now.
before we get into that, thank you for being on the podcast today and all this good stuff. Like, let us know if y'all would like this to be a weekly thing. We're thinking about making it something that we do, maybe weekly, bi-weekly, just something that we can have like other Midwest representatives on. So like maybe I could get Skittles, maybe I could get Doorstop, or like, for example, Zenodo. Maybe like we'll see. Just reach out to players, whoever's down with it. See,
Maybe a TO or something.
yeah, yeah,
Maybe it could really be anybody we want, but we're hoping to try and maybe make this a weekly or bi-weekly thing.
yeah. Cause
We don't have
like
a name for it yet, but
yeah,
Midwest.
something Midwest
Yeah,
like Doobert discussion if I'm hosting it consistently or something like
yeah.
that, right? It's just like we can get TOs, maybe like we talk with them, thought processes, and maybe we could, work out with TO's way to advertise tournaments through this too. I'll just like upload it onto my YouTube channel, and that way, you get a voice on because I know people want to see more from Ikan
They
overall.
do.
So,
Yeah.
we can get a little bit of Ikan content going too.
Yeah. Like Scoobert speaks, Stubert
Yeah,
discussion,
Scoobert speaks, Doobert
the
discussions,
Icon and Kage show. I don't
Yeah,
know.
yeah, yeah. Ikan and Kage, so that's a good one. But
Definitely.
just like, let us know. Um,
This is really fun though. I feel like it's beautiful to be able to talk to people outside of your scene, and if it's somebody that I really resonate with and value a lot, who I'll be
yeah.
seeing with later, honestly, why not? I'm more than happy to do it.
See you at Gale Force. I mean, like this upcoming
Well,
week. So,
literally in 2 days, I'll be seeing
yeah.
you. Oh my God, grand finals? Eh?
Yeah, hey, Grant. Hey, let's get it. Let's
Dude,
get it.
it's gonna be stacked actually. Now thinking about it, like there's so many good players. Like top 32 alone looks like a bloodbath.
It's gonna be so hard. It's always so hard. Duber. All right, it's looking like Duber
We're
discussion. Yeah, I
discussion.
caught on a little bit. Okay, so that'll probably be one. Yeah.
I've been involved. Which characters are you to play in Gale Force, as in our matchups?
Are is there like Fire Emblem only events? Because if there's that, I don't think I'm entered in it.
I don't think I'm entered either. Who's your best Fire Emblem character right now?
Um,
Oh,
That's a hard
oh,
question. I'd say Roy or Robin.
Okay, I'm Lucina. I'm basic.
Oh, okay, okay. No, no. Like I used to have shout out to Kedrian, my old bracket demon. Whenever I played against him, he would body me consistently with Robin. So I learned how to play Robin just so to get a better idea on the matchup.
Yeah.
And then my homie Tripped helped me out. So like those two things combined. Yeah, Cash, that'd be sick. The Doobert discussion logo,
A
like we'll just put it
logo?
on
Oh my
everything.
god. If you
Yeah.
do like what if you did like a Ryu and Snake back to back with like a headband wrapping around both or something? I don't know, but like a
Yeah.
Doobert in the middle? I don't know. Okay, I'm just
Yeah,
throwing
both of it. Okay, okay. Posture check. All right. Thank you, great. Thank you,
Oh,
goat.
thank
Yeah,
you.
make sure you check your posture.
Yes, yes, yes.
All right.
Um,
Yeah. But in general, like, any questions? Like any last second? Like, we'll take four more questions and then end it here because I know we both have to do stuff. But it's been like great talking.
yes, so
Definitely
much.
looking forward to doing this more. It'll be up on my YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/palokage. What is your Twitch icon? Because it
My Twitch is twitch.tv/Ikan, IKAN, and then MS1. M as in Mr., S as in salad, and one as in number one.
so yeah, check them out at twitch.tv/icanms1. And then um, any tips for someone joining Smash and Ultimate? Been basically only Snake Falcon for 2 years trying to win some locals. Play to learn. I'm a Snake player who joined an Ultimate, so I can kind of come from where you're coming from. Just be patient with it. Watch VODs, make sure you theorycraft, like combine all those, and just have some patience. Go to stuff and make sure you have fun and just try new things.
Yes, yes. I think the big part is you're going to be learning a lot, and when you learn the most, you're going to be able to absorb information and then try new things, and the game will feel really, really fresh. If the game feels fresh, you'll feel like you want to play more, and then the passion starts from there. And you'll be there up very, very soon.
Okay, I agree with that.
I can hit my Discord. I like your vision. All right, I will, Castinator. Thank
Okay,
you.
okay. So, what's the biggest advice you can give people that are having character crisis issues or issues staying with one character? So, okay, yeah, you relate to this one, right? Too. Sorry for the little call out, but I am going to give you advice for that pertains to you. So you got to remember, right? Whenever you're playing another character, it's a whole new game. So, like, you can learn a character for a matchup per se, but I think like until you get to top level, the reason that you're losing to a certain character is not the matchup. I think that matchups like only really matter at the top level. So until you get to that point, a new character is not necessary, and that's like where you can be the most creative with how you bounce back. Like those solutions, whenever people know your stuff, that's whenever it causes you to have timing mix-ups. And whenever you have faith in one character, you'll be able to blend solutions that you theorycraft along with subconscious responses that won't be there if you spread yourself along many characters. Because whenever you get to a level where you're that comfortable with someone, or just a character in general, you are subconsciously like know situations by like feel. Like you've been in that situation so much, you know how to deal with it. Whether you're that's like clicking in your brain, right? Like sometimes your brain won't even like be like this is the solution. Your body will just do it. Like some players aren't able to explain what they're doing because their muscle memory like helps them out so much because they've just been like trial and error, like brunt force. Just keep trying and see what works.
The
So it's
term I
like
use for this is visual instinct. That's the word. You see
yes,
it on
yes,
the screen,
yes.
you already have the instinct in your hands to be able to make that decision. That wave bounce, that beer burst, that air dodge, that jump, that roll. It is instinct, and it is going to be what you believe to be in the moment the right decision, which leads to habits, and then ultimately that leads to you eventually adapting and filtering game plans and all that cool stuff.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So it's like that's the bridge into it, and I feel like having faith in that one character. That's why I had to play a top tier myself because I need a character that's good enough for me to like convince myself into sticking to one character, which is why Snake works out so well for me. But like, if you find that character, just find the one who you have either the most fun with, the most faith in, and can play for the longest amount of time, and like yeah, I'd say it is a push through type thing, but you need to have the confidence in yourself to be able to do it to make that full push through. Otherwise, you'll push through a little bit and then like have get your doubts back. It's like both things, right? You like trust the process and be willing to push through, right? You got to have that faith in yourself that even though times are tricky, like that visual instinct you will develop with that certain character will help you out a lot at a time. So when you play so many characters, you're kind of like sometimes if you play like three characters, you might have an idea of how one character deals with it, but like maybe that character's not playing hot that day. Maybe that your other characters are playing better, and then you don't really know what to go from there because your Piranha Plant's playing better than your Pac-Man is, or your Pac-Man's playing better than your Plant is, but you usually go Plant for a matchup. So it's just like I feel like until you get to top level, you should focus on learning the game through a character and then branch like with the knowledge once you get to that certain level, right? And I
Agree.
like one last thing is like I want to say like that level is probably going to be like if you're not consistently like winning your locals, or you're not like going head to head with like the best players in your scene to where you feel like it's like last stock last hit, but you don't want to play this matchup anymore. Like if you're just switching characters and not being where you want to be, have faith in one character and see how it goes.
Exactly. I mean, I think I'm the cornerstone example of that. I think a
Yeah,
lot of players really didn't know how good Ryu was until I started jumping in on the
literally
scene.
like defining the Ryu meta a little bit. Like you just need to travel more.
Exactly, right? So I don't know who you said Pac-Man plant, right? So
Yeah,
don't feel too doubtful about like, oh, Pac-Man's an easy top 10. You should always go this for the
yeah,
matchup. Or, Plant can maybe gimmick somebody out because they don't know the matchup. Don't really worry about too much of the mechanics. Focus more on learning the game and just working through it.
yeah,
I think that's gonna be very, very crucial in trying to maybe build your understanding. A lot of characters are good enough in this game. They don't necessarily need to be top tiers. They don't need to be low tiers. They just need to be good enough with your player skill to do your best. Yes. Hello, can you tell Ikan I said what's up? I've known him from a long time ago. Casey Knight, a pleasure
yeah,
to see you. I want to say I know who you are, but I do not. I'm sorry. But hi, nice to see you. I'm assuming 3DS Wi-Fi. That's my guess. That's usually my basic guess for people
yeah.
who I haven't seen in a
Um,
while.
yeah, no worries, Raichu. So, like, any last second questions? I think like overall, we've gotten to talk a lot. It's been an hour 20, but I want to give us some time to get ready for what we got to do next. But it sounds
Yeah.
like people are a little excited, so might start doing this, weekly, bi-weekly.
I love the traction. 3DS Ryu, there it is,
Yeah,
bro.
yeah, yeah.
3DS Ryu. I always
The
know, man.
3DS
That's always the
legend.
first point. 3DS Legend. Yes, that was me. Yes. Oh my god. Yeah, maybe one day we can go back into the 3DS days. That'd be really
Yeah, yeah.
funny. But it was a
But
good time.
so you'll be seeing both Ican and myself in tournaments. Um, coming up soon. Like check out Gale Force, which is coming up on this Saturday.
Gale Force
And
is a
oh,
Chicago
actually,
regional.
yeah, yeah. We'll end it with Cash's question. So
Sure.
Cash said that how do you beat players that are absurdly confident against you or your character? And my advice for this is you figure out their pacing. So
Oh, good answer.
I think that if players are confident players are going to have a solid game plan, but what really will show how confident they are is how they respond to you breaking down their game plan. So a lot of
Mm,
people will have like level 1 confidence where it's like you break down their game plan and they're in shambles a little bit. Like sometimes all you need is one opening and you can kind of like ride the momentum from there. But some players are just, they're going to have it together and they're going to be confident the whole time. So you need to understand when it's your time to push and when it's your time to pull. Sometimes in Smash people get like for example, this is a snake problem. Um, Snakes will start mashing on shields, and because Snake is not safe on shield, that's when you need to start grabbing. So it's like it's on you to recognize against these players because they know your character's weaknesses. So sometimes you have to do what your character's not strongest option just to get them to respect the options that aren't the strongest, just so you can land the stronger ones. So I have to
mm.
grab them a lot to land my dash attacks, and if they're confident against me, not as confident players might start dropping shield to mix you up, but those confident players, since they know Snake isn't good on shield, they're just going to hold shield through it. So it's like it's on you to have confidence in yourself to where like even if my grab misses, they had to do something to avoid that grab. So it's like on them, and when they're confident, they're going to be like more willing to stick to that game plan. So it's on you to just decipher what they're doing at the moment and take it one interaction at a time.
I
Because
agree completely.
yeah,
Even if it isn't your straight combo starter, right? Like you want to hit probably like a nade conversion or a throw
yes,
conversion or something like that, right? You want to hit that. Or I want to hit like a down smash or a down tilt or a back air, right? I want to hit my Bane combo starter.
yeah,
But if they don't give you that, right? Because they're playing the matchup, you could say, right? I mean, it's
mm-hmm.
mainly just them
Yeah,
playing at
yeah,
a pace they know what to expect, right? Then you
pretty
go for the
much,
unconventional options that are not going to yield as much percent, like a stray forward air or a stray dash grab or a stray fireball or a stray Nake down air, right? These
yeah,
stuff you're going to play very, very differently. That starts forcing them back into old habits. Then you get your combo starter. Then you get the control.
yes,
Then you
yes.
set the pace, right? Play around them because they're trying to play around what they think you can do.
Yes, I agree. So I think that's how we would go about it. Like players can be confident, that's on them, but just because you are confident does not mean that your Roy has more ability than my Roy. Like just because Leo is playing Joker does not mean that Joker can do more than when I have Joker on the screen myself, right? It's just he has that mastery of the character. But you need to remember that even if they're confident and they know your character well, their character does not get better just because they are playing it. Like regardless of if it's someone who just picked up Ultimate yesterday or if it's MK Leo, Joker will have the same options. You get what I mean?
It always really comes down to player skill.
Yeah.
I will always be a vouch of player skill over character skill. It's just the character are the tools. The
Yeah.
characters have the tools that you use to succeed as a player. There
Yes.
you go.
Yes. So it's like until you get to that tippy top level where everyone knows everything, just stick with that one character, and like regardless of competence, like you just got to grind that matchup until you're as competent as they are in the matchup. And then it's just about guessies. This is like you got to be definitely kind to yourself in these environments, because like this game is predicated on human error. So if you're gonna give yourself a hard time about human error, like you've got a rough time ahead of you. So it's just like
It's
be,
it's why
um,
optimal smash doesn't
yeah,
exist,
yeah,
because you're always going to make a human error and a misspace, a missed timing, right?
and
So
yeah,
when people say optimal
yeah,
smash, I'm more so focused on the mistakes they make or how few they make,
yeah.
rather than actually, perfect gameplay, JV4 everybody, right?
It's pretty much just predicated on like how you can come back from the mistakes you make, and I feel like that can be related to the improvement process too, because it's a lot on how you bounce back from your lows. A lot like that'll like differentiate high level players and top level players, because top level players would bounce back with a whole new set of ideas, and not like they won't think a second longer than they need to about a loss. They'll just move on, take what they learned and apply it next time.
Agree completely.
So this
That's
is
pretty good.
yeah, that'll be it. This has been Apollo Kage,
And I'm Ikan.
and thank you all so much for watching, and we'll
We'll
catch
try
you all
and
later.
get a schedule, maybe. We don't really know what's
Yeah,
planned, but thank you for coming by. I really appreciate it.
get the schedule going, we'll get a name going, and we'll see how often we'll keep doing this. But I hope you all enjoyed, and I'll see you later.
Take it
Peace.
easy, guys. Peace.